Hi, a little bit of an off-topic, non-gun related video on Bloke on the Range here. We're sitting in Finland, myself and Karl of InRange, and we're taking a well-deserved break from hunting black metal bands around the Finnish forests.
Yeah, I don't know about hunting. We're trying to like save them, right? They get lost. I hear that like so many get lost in the Finnish forest every year.
Yeah.
And it's really a humanitarian effort to make sure they get back to society because we don't want to lose these cultural resources here in the Finnish forest.
Yeah. Where would rock radio be?
Well, is there rock radio left anymore? Because there isn't in the United States.
In Switzerland there isn't, but here in Finland...
Here in Finland there is.
They have great radio stations.
They really do. If you're ever in Finland, turn on the radio. Actually, turn your radio back on if you happen to have one anymore. I don't even, like in my car, I don't even know if it works. I do everything from my phone because I want to hear what I want to hear. But here in Finland, you turn on the radio and you're like, hey, this is actually good music on this thing.
Yeah. I would listen to the radio here and not my stick of music.
I agree.
So, bit of a topic here. We're two different size channels. We operate in different ways, and we see a lot of misapprehension in the comments as to what it's like to run a YouTube channel on all sorts of levels.
Yes.
You've got 250,000 odd subscribers.
We're at like 260,000 subscribers as of the filming of this content.
Yep, I've got 80,000. I run it as a hobby alongside my main job, but have a one-a-week production schedule.
Yep. I do run this as a primary endeavor in my life. I also do subcontracting jobs for information security stuff on the side. So it's a mix of my content creation and some of those, like, I would say, what's the word, contractor type security work. But I'm not sitting in an office.
And I'm doing one a week normally. Sometimes I'll do little extra things, and you're doing
3 to 4 a week. Sometimes we've gone above that, although that's a very difficult number to sustain.
Now, sort of a few nuts and bolts things. I ran a video start of the summer, early in the spring, that there was snow on the ground, and I got comments of, there's snow on the ground. How could it be snowing there? And the answer was I'd filmed it 6 months earlier.
Yeah, I find this to be a weird thing. It's an interesting, and I totally can understand where it comes from, but I also don't understand it entirely. Like, for example, we'll post something while we're traveling, like, for example, here in Finland. And this video, I don't know when you're going to publish this.
I have no idea either.
But I do know that I am filming content here in Finland right now that will not be up this week. It won't probably be up for a couple months, minimally. And there'll always be some comment of, oh, you're in Finland, come see us in Estonia.
Yeah.
Well, that was filmed 5 months ago. And the reason for that isn't laziness. It is that you have a lot of work to do this. First of all, there's the travel to get here. This sounds like complaints, by the way. It's not. We just want to give you a behind-the-scenes view of what it takes to do the content. You have to travel to wherever it is, whatever the topic is you're here. You happen to be here for Finnish Brutality 2019. I'm super awesome to have you at the match, by the way.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. But to get here is one thing, right? And then you have to figure out what it is the content you want to film. You need to have some sort of auxiliary help. There's audio, there's video, there's camera setup. If you want to do something that looks like it has some sort of production quality, you want to have more than one camera, B-roll, A-roll, all that happens. Then you got to coordinate all that, schedule it, get it put into your hard drive. Then you got to get it home along with all the other content you've done. Then you've got to edit it, which, by the way, is like 10 times longer than filming anything.
Oh, yeah. I work on the basis that a basic edit is going to cost me about an hour of time for 10 minutes of finalized content.
It can be on InRange, it's quite variable.
Yeah.
Some of the match content, to be honest, is less editing effort than some.
Yeah.
I would say for about 10 minutes of match videos, about an hour.
Yeah.
Some of the Old West vignettes, if you happen to watch InRange, which, by the way, are the most intensive ones because there's research, travel, filming, then editing, and you have to make sure you're doing it historically accurate. I do not want to put out historically incorrect information. The editing on those really could be 4 hours or more for 10 minutes of content.
The more visual stimulation, for want of a better word, you put in it with B-roll and photos and panning and zooming, things like that, it goes up exponentially. Any complicated edit, I think possibly the worst one I did was a 75-minute long discussion of Rowan, who now has a channel, the Department of Southern Armament Research, he's the gentleman that went to the World War I match with InRange and absolutely smoked it.
He dominated the World War I division with that infield, and it was a loner 308 Ishapur, which he had some concerns about, but it didn't matter. His Enfield musketry was superb.
Yep, yes. And he smoked a lot of the semi-auto shooters as well.
He did indeed.
But that we had lag. We did it over Skype. So we had, just to give you a vague idea of the equipment, we had my feed off the computer from Skype, we had the feed off the camera you are looking through right now. I had an audio device, this one, next to me. Rowan at his end was filming with a phone, and then there was a second phone. We were doubling up.
Audio redundancy?
Audio redundancy, a bit of video redundancy as well, just in case something craps out on you. And then because of Skype lag, I had to edit all of these together. Every time someone spoke, we had to cut it, because he's on the opposite side of the world, and the lag at points was quite substantial.
Sounds painful.
It was painful, and for 75 minutes with very little B-roll, I did put some in, and some photos and some bits of documents and things. That was an exceptionally painful, and it probably took me, I just don't want to think how much time. I just broke it up. When I was feeling it, I'd do it, and then I just have to put it aside. And I've actually got half edited at the moment something on cheese making. An ex-US Marine Corps helicopter pilot who goes and helps making cheese on an Alp in Switzerland.
By the way, it's fabulous cheese.
I brought some as a gift. I brought a whole 4 kilo raclette that came from this.
The Finns destroyed that.
They
cheese.
did. That went down extremely well.
Yeah.
And so I've got that, and that is being quite an epic edit. And you've got to sync up the audio. And I'm not doing particularly complex edits. If we compare with, say, Rob of British Muzzleloaders, who does very documentary style edits, which are lots of B-roll, lots of voiceover. I try and avoid B-roll. That's one of the great things with working with my colleague, known on the channel as the chap. And by now he can sort of read my mind. So we do B-roll live by him hand-holding the camera, and when I show a detail, he comes in, because that is so much easier than doing B-roll after the fact, and then you always miss something. And if it's not so bad if it's your gun and you've got it at home and you can go back and do it, but then you've got to take the files off the computer, and it's a complete pest. So I always tend to think, what's the value add of doing it this way versus that way, compared to how much effort goes into it. But editing is a total ball ache, and you can't really outsource it.
And you can, but it's going to be so cost prohibitive that it's not viable. And when you're dealing with esoteric content, such as firearms, believe it or not, firearms is esoteric content. When it comes to the level of intellectualism you bring to your channel, you can't hand that off to someone that doesn't intimately know the topic and get it right.
Yeah, that's why editing that for me is
essential.
I have to edit it myself.
Same thing with in-range when it comes to not just the guns, but the history stuff for sure, because we have a vision of what we're trying to do, right? Secondarily, the thing that fights with in-range a lot is audio. We always film on live ranges, and people are like, there's gunfire. Yes, there is. It's at a live range, and there's no way to film this anywhere else but this live range at this moment. So I don't know how much you struggle with audio, but I have been constantly trying to fix that with other tools, but that's another editing thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I find that using these has improved the sound quality quite a lot, particularly filming on ranges. The problem is that I'm not always alone on a range.
Sure.
So there'll be background noise, there'll be people talking about all sorts of esoteric stuff, which is personal sometimes. People don't hide it. They'll talk about their wives and things.
And you can't really, because you're filming at a public range, you can't really turn around. These people are not there for bloke. They're there to be at the range, right? So you can't turn around and be like, hey guys, this is an important video production. Can you not speak right now? That's not how that works.
Yeah. I mean, at some of the events we try, but there's
of course.
There's some people who can't. So you've got to deal with it. And sometimes you end up putting filters, which dampens down the sound quality, makes you sound like you've got a sock in your mouth. Sometimes if there's just shooting, I've actually cut the audio between the shots.
God.
Which it's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
But when you've got someone saying something personal in the background, it might be in Swiss German, and the average viewer won't understand it, but the Swiss German speakers will.
They certainly will, of course. Yeah.
So you've got to deal with all this kind of thing, and you've got to work within the constraints. And it's YouTube, it's not TV.
But it still needs to look good.
But it still needs to look good and sound good.
It's not the YouTube of when YouTube started.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But I'm doing this as a hobby production, and we have to accept in certain cases that I can't go and refilm. And we just have to live with it and do the best we can with what we get on the various devices. And okay, we're in the forest, it's a little bit windy here. I'm doubled up on the audio because I've got the camera audio, and that's a Sony Handycam that actually has pretty good internal audio. In fact, it's very similar to what Matt at Demolition Ranch started with, and he never used separate audio. It was always handheld talking to camera using the internal audio.
Mosquito.
And it came out fine, but he was in the middle of nowhere and didn't have cars and
yeah. Well,
trucks.
you're actually tripled up because you got a mic here, and a mic there. This will be picking up some of you, and this will be picking up some of me, and that should be picking up both of us.
Yeah.
But that all has to be synchronized.
Yep.
And you have to figure out which one of those audio sources was the cleanest, and all those things that come with that.
Yeah. Typically, what I do, because I'm using Premiere Elements because I'm doing it on a laptop, and I really object to renting software.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
That's a thing. The world's moved to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. So I sync these up manually in Audacity. Is that how it's pronounced?
So it's the open source tool.
Yeah, the open source tool, which is quite good for that, but I have to do it manually, and then I balance it as best I can there, and then I leave that open, generate the MP3, import that into Premiere Elements, and if I need to rebalance after the fact, there's a little trick. I close Premiere Elements, I fiddle the balance in Audacity, and then regenerate the same MP3, and restart Premiere Elements, and I've got the new version in there.
Oh, okay.
That's quite handy. But if we ended up with just one of these mics, just fiddling with the levels every time a different person speaks,
that
it's just
stuff
a
happens.
nightmare.
This is the thing. So here's the deal. Again, this is not a complaint video. This is just, I think hopefully people are watching this find it to be an interesting insight of what it takes to make, even because it's not professional, it would like to be, but it's more like prosumer level video content creation. It's a surprising amount of infrastructure and effort to do that, and that's what I think we're trying to bring to you guys is what it takes to do that.
Yeah, and you were mentioning research things. Book, I sort of tend to term them bookwork videos. I've not had the time or the energy to do certain things, and people have been begging me to continue the Swiss straight pulls series, and the problem is that's a bookwork video. I've got to sit down behind in my set, which I have set up permanently, and sort that out. I've had a bit of a complex about that. I found it much easier to do more freeform stuff on the range. I take the camera along to doing what I'm doing anyway, and that's easier, and I can get that in the schedule faster, edited more quickly. I've got backlog going back to 2017 for stuff.
Do you really?
Yeah, I've got one video from Italy, October 2017, that I still need to finish. It's got a little bookwork finish on it, and I've just got to get around to doing that. But priorities, real life work takes priority. There's the family alongside as well.
What?
And this.
You mean you don't just make YouTube the entire most important thing in your life?
Yeah, this surprises people as well, actually.
Well, I find that interesting. So here's the thing that this is where I'm going to go with this, and you can differ on what you think. But so back in the old days of YouTube, it was like cat videos and fun stuff that people did. Really, it was hobby content, right? And then YouTube became more of a thing, and YouTube. And it's not just YouTube, there's Facebook and lots of different videos, but the idea of the democratization of the ability of the individual to create good content or interesting content that doesn't exist within mass media platforms anymore. Like at one point, I remember the History Channel actually had some interesting things on it.
Yeah.
The History Channel doesn't have interesting
things. And then
it
went all Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, it's aliens and weird stuff. And like there was the old Tales of the Gun, which was a fun show. It wasn't intellectually as deep as what you do, or let me even go like See an Arsenal, who goes, oh my gosh, hour and 45 minutes of in-depth. It is great. But that stuff doesn't exist in those environments because it can't be monetized with advertising dollars. But the amount of effort to do that is incredibly immense. And so what we hear sometimes is, yeah, you guys don't need Patreon or you don't need monetization because you're just doing this as a hobby. And the reality is the kind of stuff that you do, the kind of stuff that See an Arsenal does, and I would hope to think that the people that like In Range realize the kind of stuff we do, or Ian from Forgotten Weapons of that as well. This is not something you can do as strictly without some sort of way to support it. It's incredibly time-consuming and monetarily consuming and psychologically consuming. It is, would you call it, even though I know you like it, another job?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had someone ask me, so you're working 50-50 day job bloke on the range? And I said, well, it's more like 130-50.
Yeah.
But I was exaggerating. I don't think it was a 20-hour a week on bloke on the range. It was more like 10 to 12 if you include the whole package, including all the social media stuff, which is exceptionally time consuming.
Oh yeah, I know it is. Well, it's designed to be. That's what social media is meant to be. Social media wants to keep you on it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And when you administrate a popular social media environment, you need to be on even more than that, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I use it as I can insert it in the day job because I'm a sort of micro break person. I work in really concentrated bursts.
Yeah, me too.
And then micro break. And then I use the social media stuff as a micro break. And then while I'm doing that, my brain's processing what I've just been doing, and then I give it another burst. I'm not someone who can just sit at at a work task for hours. Editing, yes, because it's less intellectually challenging.
Oh, I don't know.
For
I think editing is another form of the art, actually. How you edit this content actually is art.
Yeah.
I know people are going to say art, but I think it is. It is an artistic endeavor in that even if it is something that is data-driven, such as Bloke on the Range, and hopefully some of in-range content, but not all of it, there is an artistic element to which this is creating something. And to me, you may be different, and there are moments of artistic inspiration and moments when there are not, and you have to kind of strike when that iron is there to be struck, and trying to force that to happen when the timing isn't right, in my opinion, turns into inferior content.
I would agree entirely. If I'm editing something because I have to edit something because I've got nothing in my buffer and I've got to do it, but I'm really not feeling it, it can be just incredibly hard work. I'm quite timing sensitive on the cuts. I take quite a lot of effort to get the timing right and get it to flow, and just nailing that. And you've got to have that edge where you've got the spark. You want to be doing it, otherwise you'll leave an awful pregnant pause that you should jump cut or something like that. You'll go, oh, it's good enough. I just want to get this done and out. Or shall I introduce? Shall I put a photo of the bit of the manual, or was it clear enough? And if you're not feeling it, you just think, oh, I can't be bothered, and just don't do it. And I try and step away from it. And you work in a backlog situation.
Yeah, no, we have to, especially when you're trying to put out lots of content. You have to have backlog because, for example, traveling here for Finished Brutality, that takes days off of the ability to edit and publish. So we have to have this much stuff published for the duration of. It's not filmed today, edited today, published today, or published real time. It's filmed today, edited later, published later, and you have to have enough of that to fill the gap for the travel time for like what you're doing right now. I
try to have about a month's worth of content, plus minus.
It's a nice cushion
in my buffer, edited. The $5 patrons will know this because they get access to it as soon as it's uploaded. Because I thought that was a good reward. And if you don't have this, you end up in a situation where if you've got a film to order, basically, you end up, as you say, inferior content, and you
just got to churn it out now.
Yeah. Yep. And when you're in the zone, when you want to strike when the iron's hot, and you can tell in my videos, the ones where I'm particularly enthusiastic about a topic, it really comes through. And I just talk about stuff that I like, I enjoy, I find interesting, and hopefully you guys out there do as well.
That's what makes content good, though. When the content creator, whether you like in-range or not, is irrelevant. This topic is appropriate. When the content creator truly cares about what it is they're doing, it does come through. You can feel it. It's palpable. Like when you care about that topic, when I watch one of your videos, I can see it. I can feel it comes through. There's an engagement there that's much greater than someone. This is why this is better than mass media. Someone in mass media has a job. They're the host of show X. You're going to do a show about topic Y. They don't care what Y is. They've got this script. They read it. Someone post-edit it. Make it sensationalist so people will watch it. Get advertising money from Pepsi or whoever. Monetize, right? That's the method. And that's why I think this is so cool about what we have now, is that when you go to see someone that's truly passionate about something that they want to present, whether it's firearms or making cheese, it's something far more engaging than something that was scripted by someone who decided it was marketable.
And some of the best mass media shows from back in the day, so the pre-YouTube days, where the presenter is clearly enthused by his topic. I don't know if this made it across the Atlantic to the States, but Professor Richard Holmes' War Walks.
It did not. Not that I'm aware of.
Oh,
I haven't seen it.
This was brilliant. Professor Richard Holmes would present battles. He would go and walk the battlefields, and it was scripted and it was to camera, but it was very well done. And it was in I think it was done in the 90s, and it was a very documentary style. But I think he wrote the scripts, and he was very enthused by the subject matter.
That's a very unique project, then.
And it was all British military history. So he did Waterloo, Peninsular Campaign, World War I.
But wait, was this funded by the BBC then?
I'm not sure.
Because BBC's BBC kind of changes that a little bit.
Yeah, before they decided that they had to compete with the commercial channels.
But before, when BBC initially, their model changed that. A state-funded media project is going to have a different result than one that's completely monetized by advertising dollars.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know. That's a whole sociological discussion on itself.
Yeah. I mean, the BBC is a whole other.
I don't know. I have never really watched BBC.
Whole other topic in and of itself when they decided that they had to compete with the trashy game shows that everyone else was pushing out, and like, what's the point of view?
Yep.
I mean,
fair.
ITV's doing this. Channel 5's doing. Why do you feel the need? Why do you feel the need to insert yourself? Where's all the cool old documentaries we used to have? Oh, they're on repeat on BBC Two and BBC Four and what have you.
I'm going to change this slightly. The other thing that just crossed my mind when you were talking about that is like, so we just got done for Finished Brutality.
Yep.
We filmed all of our runs while we're shooting, and some of our Stoleka's resources and in-range resources were there to help film everyone, including you.
Yep.
But like, it is interesting to note that like, so people ask things about like when they see us running at the match, how many things are going on at once. And like, I'm now going up to shoot a stage. This all sounds like complaints. It's not. I'm just giving you background. Look here. Go to shoot a stage, and frequently my mind isn't on the stage I'm here to shoot. It's on, is the filming right? Are the filming resources right? Do we have the audio set up right? And then the buzzer goes off, and oh yeah, I got to shoot too. And that's great, and it's a wonderful thing to be involved in. But there's a lot going on to make that content.
I'll tell you what, because it wasn't my resources being used to film.
Yeah.
I had absolute 100% confidence because it was yours and Barrister.
You were a little bit freed up.
I was mentally freed up, and I had 100% confidence that the footage was going to be taken and going to be good, and I could focus fully on the match.
That's great, but there's not always the case. Like when you're shooting in Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm worrying about that. Sometimes I'm on my own. Sometimes I've got my colleague there, and when it's your own resources, you're responsible for it, and you have to, and you worry about it. Whether you, even if you have 100% confidence, it's the fact it's your camera.
Yeah. Is the angle right?
Yeah.
Can you see the target? Is the audio going to work?
Yeah. And in fact, I'm now worrying about this because the screen is pointing the wrong direction. So I'm being paranoid now of, is it still recording? But it's got a full battery. There's no reason why.
Oh, it's working. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not, this will be a podcast.
Fair enough. But all this comes down to this. This is only the surface of this, right? There's a lot more than this on top of that. The point is when people say, well, we don't understand why this sort of thing requires monetization of any sort, whether it's ad or user or viewer support. The reality is that to create the kind of content that you make, or some of the channels that are now out there make, without monetization support of some sort, it really isn't viable.
It isn't viable. It really isn't. As soon as you commit to a schedule, and these two things were intimately intertwined. I was reticent to start Patreon because I felt strange about it. It's a British hang-up, perhaps, and I had people insisting. It was a real shut up and take my money thing. Oh, and then,
because they love what you're doing. And
I promised. I said, okay, I will do this, and I will endeavour to produce one video a week. As a quid pro quo. It'll stop being an occasional channel, and it will go over to a schedule so that people know what they're sometimes I go over that. There have been a few times when, due to work stress or family commitments, that I very nearly didn't, but I've managed to keep it up ever since. The little silly extra videos, they were kind of fun for a while, and then Chappie and my wife said, yeah, you're probably spending too much time on this. So you're under a bit of stress, you should probably dial that back. So I haven't done any for a while, but people just completely underestimate the time constraint. And I've got a good upload, luckily. I live in the sticks, but I've got a 4G mast in line of sight, so I've got a 4G mast.
I live in the sticks too, and my internet's not great. But the point I was getting to here, and you don't have to, this is me speaking for me, but so I see stuff like this, and I'll see, like, you'll see these derogatory things like e-beggar. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've had people saying, don't you think it's a bit rich? He's asking money for his hobby.
See, this is what I don't understand. You are producing, everyone that's doing this, that's monetized through crowdsourced funding, is essentially selling a product. Let's go to the capitalist model. It is, you are making a product. If someone finds that product to be worth, first of all, it's different in one way. You're making a product that anyone can watch, whether they support it or not. So it's not like you're paywalling. It's not like you're forcing someone to pay to watch this. What's happening is you're saying that if you like this, it is up to some of you, in this environment to make this continue to exist. This is valuable enough to me that it's worth that. It's not even, but it's still free even if you don't do that. That to me, when I see that e-beggar thing, or someone shouldn't have to pay you to do your hobby, then here's the reality you're going to land up with. This type of content won't be there because it's not viable.
Yeah, it's more than a hobby. And I had a couple of guys say, "Well, I've cancelled my cable subscription because it's just there's nothing to watch, and I've divvied it up between my favorite."
I've seen a lot of that too.
Channels.
I've seen a lot of that.
That was the first time I was really pleased because they listed the channels, and it was Forgotten Weapons, In Range, See an Arsenal, me, and I can't remember who else. And I was like, wow, I'm being ranked amongst the big guys here. Wow, I hadn't expected that. Cool, thank you so much.
No, that's fantastic. And those, I think all those channels combine into a very interesting social media firearms related, like 3.0 type of content, actually. So I think that I see there's a reason for that.
So that family of channels sort of have in common, it's sort of increasing the total net sum of human firearms knowledge and
Hopefully.
history knowledge.
I'd like that's nice to think about.
Going
yeah.
and spreading information that either you've got to do your own primary research or it's in very expensive, very specialised books. Othaius of See an Arsenal is the absolute champ.
Yeah, he is
on this.
I agree.
It's absolutely superb what he's doing, and if he discovers that there's a slight error, he won't let it stand.
Nope.
He'll go back and fix it and re-upload in a 1.5 hour video. Just the time to encode that and re-upload that and everything is just immense. That's the point I was going to make with my internet connection, is that mine's relatively good, but the guys who are on slower upload speeds, it's just the sheer time just to get the thing up onto YouTube, get the end card set up, put up any cards, anything like that, thumbnails. It's
and at In Range, I insist on multiple distribution points as a point of contention against the current YouTube issues, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, which I don't think this video is here to talk about, but amongst all of what it takes to create this content, the most important thing for me, whether you fund this or not, really, the most important thing for me is for people to see it.
Yep.
I want people to see it. If I make something that I think is cool, my hope is that people will watch it. And I have a feeling that's the case with any one of these content creators of the channels you're discussing. And we are now, unfortunately, due to the fact that we're dealing with what is inappropriately, in my opinion, considered marginalized content, we are fighting another battle on another front, which is another psychological time consumption of whether this is funded or not. If I make this, is anyone going to see it? And can we grow the eyeballs that want to see it? Because they're actively sort of doing stuff to make it not viable for people to see it. And if people don't see it, guess what happens? That small number of people that are willing to support it don't even know you exist. So that's another challenge on top of that.
And we're doing a lot of cross-pollination. We've been doing with 3 channels here at Finished Brutality, so In Range, Bloke on the Range, and Poland Are Tactical.
Oh, and actually some from Varus to Leica
and
as
some
well.
Varus to Leica. I've been doing some stuff with Henry of 9 Hole Reviews, a channel you should watch and support.
Especially if they like your stuff, they'll definitely like that as well.
Yeah. Rowan's new channel, I've been mentioning him a lot, Department of Southern Armament Research. He's literally just starting out, but he was on In Range, he's been on Bloke on the Range. He's a great guy, and he's going to be producing some interesting footage, interesting content, mostly bolt gun related. He likes to run an Enfield fast. Yeah. I like to run an Enfield fast.
I'd like to, they just always fail.
Americans, man.
Another topic for today.
We're trying to collaborate amongst channels to get cross-pollination, because I work on the basis that anyone that watches me knows In Range and knows Forgotten Weapons.
No, that's not necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true. It was a presumption I had, was that what I was doing was a subset of what you're doing. And there's a crossover in content with what I do. I don't think that most of what I do is particularly original, but you don't have to be. As long as what you're doing is new and interesting.
It's original to someone who didn't know it before they watched it.
But part of what I do is similar to what you do on In Range.
Of course there's going to be similarities.
Yeah, part of what I do is similar to Forgotten Weapons. And whenever I do a basic, this is a gun, let's talk about it, people make the inevitable comparison with...
I even get that when I do modern guns. Like I do a teardown of a Brownell's gun, and people are like, hi, this is Karl from In Range TV. But how else do you discuss a gun? I mean, you sit at a table and tear it apart.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a reason why the channels that do this all have a similar format, because we're not going to have dancing girls in the background and approach it in a completely illogical
that would be kind of cool, though.
manner. Yeah, I got accused of copying Ian's patter and way of explaining things. But if you read a technical gun book or a patent on a gun, they all read basically the same way, because there's a standard language and a standard methodology for describing these. And that sort of technical writing is part of my day job, and it comes across, and it's also logical. Nobody is the originator of that. You read the textbook of small arms 1904. It's the same.
Because it's technical. It is. It's like it is essentially STEM.
Yeah.
If you're going to do STEM right, it's STEM. It's how it works.
Yeah.
So,
but like claiming people are showing a mathematical derivation and they're all doing it the same way. Right? Yeah.
it's called math.
It's called math.
Yeah.
There is a right answer.
But what you're getting to is pertinent in that. So tying this all together, one, this stuff can't be a hobby. I mean, it can be, but it has to be somehow monetized. If there is no way to fund it, unless you happen to be the most altruistic guy with all the time in the world with no other obligations, fine. That's a rare circumstance. So it's either funded from big old corporation, or someone in the viewership. That's just reality.
Yeah.
The ability for us to spread that these channels exist is that hole is closing because of social media's machinations. What that means then is in my opinion, here's what I think, and the power exists in the audience, right? So here's the thing: if you like Bloke, and he just recommended a couple of channels, like Rowan's channel, for example, or if you hadn't somehow heard of Sea and Arsenal, go check them out, right? And for you can do one of a number of things. One, all of these types of content creators that do content that wouldn't exist otherwise can, if you have the ability, or already are, thank you, supporting them via Patreon. And I'm not saying me, I'm saying any one of these, anything, or content that's not firearms related. Patreon, $1 goes a huge way because a whole bunch of people with $1 makes the difference. That's one.
Yep. In fact, my biggest proportion of the income on Patreon is the $1.
Yeah, no, I agree. Same with InRange, actually. But that goes a long way. You get enough of people that love this, those dollars add up fast, right? That's one way. The second one is you can understand that, or hopefully hear us and realize that social media's weird grip means that we can't depend on an algorithm to promote as much as we used to be able to at one point. So what we need to do is rely on the audience to defeat that weird system that's now being placed and share this type of stuff organically. Like, they like Bloke, go check out Rowan. You like Rowan, go check out Bloke. Go tell your friends, go tell people. And even more important than that, share the videos amongst your community.
It's the cliche, it's the like and subscribe cliche. It really is important because on YouTube itself, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, that drives the algorithm, and we might be depromoted compared to...
Unless you're in something that's the no-no.
Unless
it may not.
Yeah, but firearms content is in that grey zone. We're kind of tolerated.
It's headed towards no-no.
Yeah. In the future, it...
yeah,
we have to see. You're probably right on that.
Yep.
It's sharing it on all forms of social media. It gets the eyes on, irrespective of whether it's being promoted directly by the algorithms or not. You can get eyes on content you like, other eyes on content you like. So
if you can support financially, that's one. The other thing you can do is you can be the kind of content creators you like. You can be our bio bot, to use a Chernobyl reference. Get up on that roof, grab that shovel, and throw that piece of graphite in the hole by sharing the content creators you like amongst your community, and that defeats their weird algorithm machinations that they're now using as, not as a weapon, but as a tool to marginalize things that just isn't in their desirability category at this particular time. And
just, you probably talked about it in the other video you referenced, but it's not just firearms content. It's a lot of stuff that you'd assume would be viewed as politically correct that gets it as well. There's just certain things, there's just certain topics that just fall under this banner.
It's not even that. I know for a fact it has hit the LGBT community and their content creators. It absolutely has hit them, but it also has hit stuff that is strictly nothing more than historical content.
Yes.
For example, I am aware of a channel called Skeptoid, who I'm a fan of. They do a lot of like rational thought analysis of just like known information that's wrong, and they just correct them. He happened to have a video on YouTube that was debunking Holocaust revisionism. So he was debunking people who believe the Holocaust didn't exist. All right, anyone that has any historical knowledge has realized that they're loony. And he had a video saying, they're wrong, here's why. They not only took his video down, They gave him a community strike for having a video that was saying the Holocaust did happen. So what that tells me is the algorithms, first of all, have too much power, but it also tells you that they're trying to make this thing really plain, boring yogurt. Like nothing that could ever cause anything to happen. In fact, another one, the guys that do Indy Nidell, that do the historical stuff, they're now doing World War II day by day. They've been completely demonetized, deprioritized, age restricted, because the YouTube community guidelines now say that you can't deal with topics that have anything to do with human conflict. Well, all of human history is human conflict. That's a real thing that's really happening. So that's happening on the platform. And so people that are doing nothing more than unbiased historical research and content are finding themselves behind that 8 ball.
It's not going in the right direction, and we should give up this and make kitten videos. Although Matthias is getting ahead of the curve with his guinea pigs. He's got a bit of a unique selling point there.
It's interesting that you say that, because Indy Nidell recommended cats on vacuum cleaners. But the point is real. And so what we need to do is, I don't know, I grew up with the promise of the internet being this thing. And I don't want to see the internet not be that thing. So we as the content creators can help by producing content that we like and distributing it to multiple places. The viewers have all the power.
Yep, absolutely.
So I didn't mean to dominate that, but I get impassioned on that topic.
It's always great when you get impassioned on it, and that really comes through. Should we finish with a little whinge about comments and moderating comments?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So thus far, even though some things might have sounded as a complaint, they weren't.
They're not.
This is a complaint, right? Moderating YouTube comments.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time, we sort of have a general slow burn level of views between, it varies according to the whim of the algorithm, but somewhere between 7,000 at the low end, 15,000 at the top end views per 48 hours.
You're talking about bloke.
Yeah, bloke on the range.
Okay.
Yours will be much higher. And that's normally the hardcore viewership.
Sure.
And the comments are, as a result, generally pretty good. You hit what Matthias calls a thick vein of the general population. And suddenly it just goes crazy. If you get a spike in traffic from non-gun people, that can be pretty crazy.
Sure.
A lot of people viewed our video of the rain shooting over the road, and we thought that it would be picked up with a lot of people going, "What?"
Well, that is an interesting topic.
Yeah, and the number of people whose first thought was that people shooting there would want to target traffic.
Oh, actually intentionally do it?
Actually intentionally do it, and that would be a perfect place to do it, and it would be logical in some way to do it. But if your first thought of something like that is murderous intent, you need to go see someone. You need to step away from the internet and go and find a real doctor and get some therapy, because that's wrong.
It's disturbing.
It's disturbing. There was a lot of that. There's a lot of insulting people. Apparently I should feel bad about the fact I'm balding and don't have a luscious crop
I see
of
ones
hair.
in which people state that we should be shooting at, destroying, and attacking the saguaros, which are the giant cactuses in the Arizona desert.
You get that.
The cacti. Those desert. But a lot of things that are based around destructive behavior or just vicious negativity.
Oh, there's a lot of vicious negativity, just randomly. I get anti-Semitism directed against me occasionally.
Yeah.
You can set filters to catch most of this.
Well, no. But the other thing is also people create a narrative like you can make very apolitical content that has nothing to do with anything. Like there's a lot of history videos on InRange that have nothing to do with politics. Nothing. One of them was it was just a historical account of an unfortunately deranged soldier in World War II that opened fire on German POWs in a U.S. POW camp. Something I hadn't known about. So that's why I'm like, I didn't know this story. This is crazy. How was this left out of the narrative? Let's put that in there. Or being just open and honest about what happened to, say, for example, the Navajo or the Apache in one of our videos about eating fry bread. This is just what happened. And it turns into this thing where people want to take your words and put them into whatever bias they happen to have, and then put that on you as though you are there for the symbol of X or Y or Z. And no, it is just, here's a story. Right, and then that turns into a meme, which then turns into a content section, which then turns into comments, which then turns into anti-Semitic comments against you on Bloke on the Range or on InRange or on any channel. And here's my thought on that, and I'll let you go. We get the world that we want to live in by acting the way we want to act. If the world you want to live in is one filled with viciousness and awfulness, then you are contributing to that by doing that. If you want to live in a world where you're treated well, and I'm treated well, and you're treated well, and we try to make each other, lift each other up to be better, which is what I want to do with providing hopefully interesting content, then consider not doing that.
Yeah, we want videos to get into the eyes of the general population, the non-gun population. Maybe they'll come in to yours on something on fry bread, mine something on cheese or trust fridges or something random like that, and then think, hey, gun people aren't all crazy or whatever. There's positive. Both our channels are extremely positive on presenting firearms culture, and that's just comes through on how we interact with firearms and the shooting sports. I would love for my videos to reach the wider population. It's just that what comes with that is a certain amount of this incredible negativity and insulting, and people trying to just insult the content creators just because we're there and can be insulted.
Well, you know what's funny is I just realized that by making a call to be kind, there will be some people that will meet that with hostility.
Oh.
But here's the thing, and this is just what it is. Making comments like that, this is me speaking, not you, so the audience can do whatever they want with this. Doing that generally comes from a perspective of someone that generally isn't powerful otherwise, because it's a place to be briefly powerful for a moment, and it isn't a good way to do it. So if that's what's coming to your mind, consider it, and consider what could be done better. That's just me. You can, and I will garner hate for that, and that's fine. But what I will say is this is the positive side of this. When you hit the vein of the general populace, a couple things. One, it's a very small number, really.
Oh, it's a tiny.
They're just the ones that are loud and visible.
They're not even the 1%. You measure them in ppm.
Yeah, they're tiny. They're tiny. It is really a tiny, small background radiation, but however, it's a very poisonous one. It's like, this muffin is delicious, but it has 1 drop of cyanide in it. Well, it's still a cyanide-laced muffin, right? So that's one. But here's the positive side of this, and let's get to that. Channels like yours and CN Arsenal and others produce, like you said, there's some other stuff on there. There's cheese, there's this. That's normal human being doing normal, responsible things with firearms. For someone who normally wouldn't watch firearms content, that, in my opinion, is the greatest form of pro-rights, pro-firearms activism, in air quotes, because that then suddenly changes the narrative that the media typically feeds, which is, it's all loonies. It isn't all loonies. There's lots of us, as we know, the people watching this, great salt of the earth human beings that happen to enjoy firearms, the sports, and the rights that come with it. And people that don't understand that because they see the regular media's narrative, see something that you create because they happen to watch a channel about making cheese, that's the kind of stuff that changes hearts, minds, and culture. And it is a culture war ultimately.
Absolutely. And you can do it without explicitly engaging in politics. It doesn't have to be partisan. There's no ranting. It's just, this is how it is. We present what we find interesting, what we like to do, in a positive manner, and people hopefully see it.
I will summarize this, and I think we're probably wrapping up here. But I will say that rights shouldn't be partisan. They're human rights because they're human rights. It's as simple as that. You're human. This should be your right. Has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah. So, anyway, if you've survived this far, thank you very much. I hope it was at least vaguely interesting, to use our little bloke on the range catchphrase there.
Yes.
If you don't know who Karl is in range, go look it up. You will like it. If you don't know who I am, you're on my channel, so you should. Anyway,
but you may have stumbled upon it, and so we'll watch more videos.
Yeah, hopefully you'll watch more videos. As we've discussed, supporting us on Patreon manages to keep this sort of thing going. We're sitting here, as we said, in Finland.
Yep.
And if it was just a pure hobby,
it wouldn't be viable.
It wouldn't be viable. And so please consider supporting either or both of us on Patreon, and see you again sometime.
Let's see if we can go into the forest and find another one of those black metal bands, because
I think I can hear a double drum pedal.
We don't want them to starve to death out here.
No, they need feeding occasionally.
Some beer at least.